What if the moment you feel like quitting is the exact moment your life is about to change? What if the struggle you're facing right now is not the end of your story, but the final chapter before your breakthrough? So many people walk away when things get hard. They stop praying. They stop fighting, and the tragedy is this many of them quit right before everything was about to shift in their favor. There are seasons in life where the pressure feels unbearable. They close. The path ahead looks uncertain, and in those moments, the enemy of your faith whispers a dangerous lie. Nothing will ever change. But what if that voice is wrong? Because sometimes the hardest battles appear right before the greatest victories. Sometimes the longest nights come just before the brightest sunrise. And sometimes the reason things feel so heavy right now is because something powerful is about to happen in your life. So whatever you do, don't give up now. When the struggle is preparing you for the change, every meaningful transformation in life begins with a season that feels uncomfortable, confusing, and sometimes even painful. No one naturally enjoys struggle. No one wakes up hoping for obstacles, delays, or disappointments. Yet the truth about growth is that it rarely happens during the easy seasons of life. Growth happens when you are stretched beyond your comfort zone. It happens when life places pressure on you that forces you to become stronger than you were before. Right now, the challenges you are facing may feel overwhelming. You may be dealing with delays that make no sense, doors that refuse to open, and problems that seem to appear one after another. It might even feel like every step forward is followed by 2 steps backward. In those moments, it is very easy to believe that something has gone wrong with your journey. You may begin to question your purpose, your direction, or even your faith in the future. What if the struggle you are experiencing is not a sign that you are moving in the wrong direction? What if the struggle is actually a sign that something within you is being prepared for something greater? Many people misunderstand struggle because they only focus on the pain it creates. They see the difficulty, the frustration, and the uncertainty, but they fail to recognize the transformation that is quietly taking place within them. Struggle has a way of revealing strength that you never knew existed. It pushes you beyond the limits you once believed defined you. It forces you to grow in ways that comfort never could. Think about the way strength is built in the physical world. Muscles do not grow when they are comfortable. They grow when they are challenged, stretched, and placed under pressure. When someone lifts weights, the resistance creates small tears in the muscle fibers. At first, that sounds like damage, but in reality, it is the beginning of growth. Repair themselves, they become stronger than they were before. Life works in a similar way. The struggles you face are often the resistance that strengthens your character. They create the conditions that force you to develop patience, resilience, courage, and determination. Without those challenges, those qualities might remain dormant within you. Pressure has a way of revealing what is truly inside a person. When everything is easy, almost anyone can appear confident and strong. But when life becomes difficult, when plans fall apart, when hope seems distant, that is when real strength begins to emerge. That is when people discover the depth of their endurance and the power of their persistence. It is during these difficult seasons that you learn lessons that success alone could never teach. You learn patience when things take longer than expected. You learn humility when circumstances remind you that you cannot control everything. You learn resilience when you are forced to stand up. After falling down, those lessons are not just temporary experiences. They shape the person you are becoming. Imagine someone receiving a massive opportunity without having developed the character to handle it. Without patience, they might become frustrated when challenges arise. Without resilience, they might collapse under pressure. Without humility, they might misuse the opportunity and lose it entirely. Preparation is necessary for every level of growth. The greater the responsibility, greater the preparation must be. This is why struggle often appears before major changes in life. The difficulty is not random. It is shaping you into someone capable of stepping into the next chapter of your journey. During difficult seasons, it may feel as though nothing is improving. The days can begin to blend together. Effort may seem unnoticed. Progress may appear invisible, and in those moments, it is easy to feel discouraged. But transformation is often happening beneath the surface long. Before it becomes visible, think about a seed planted in the ground. After it is placed in the soil, nothing appears to happen for a while. From the outside, it might look like the seed has disappeared. But beneath the surface, something incredible is taking place. Roots are beginning to grow. The foundation of the future plant is forming in silence and darkness. If the seed could speak during that process, it might believe it had been buried and forgotten. But in reality, it was being planted and prepared for growth. Your life may be in a similar season right now. The struggle you feel might resemble being buried under the weight of circumstances. But what if you are not being buried? What if you are being planted? When a seed is planted, the environment is not comfortable. It is surrounded by darkness and pressure. Yet those very conditions are necessary for growth to begin. Without that process, the seed could never develop into the tree it was designed to become. Your current challenges may be part of the preparation that allows your life to grow into something greater than you imagined. Another powerful aspect of struggle is that it clarifies your priorities. During easy seasons, people often drift through life without deeply examining what truly matters to them. Comfort can create distraction. It can cause people to focus on things that are temporary or unimportant. But when life becomes difficult, perspective begins to shift. Struggles have a way of stripping away distractions and revealing what truly matters. They force you to evaluate your values, your goals, and your direction. Through struggle, people often discover their purpose more clearly than ever before. They begin to recognize the strength within them. They begin to see possibilities they had never considered. And they begin to develop the courage to pursue a life that is aligned with their deepest calling. This process is not easy. In fact, it can be extremely painful at times. There may be moments when you feel like giving up, moments when the weight of uncertainty feels too heavy to carry, moments when the future appears unclear. But those moments do not define the end of your story. They are simply part of the journey that shapes who you are becoming. Many of the most inspiring stories of transformation began with seasons of struggle. The people who eventually achieved extraordinary things often faced rejection, failure, and hardship before their breakthrough arrived. What separated them from others was not that their journey was easier. It was that they refused to quit during the difficult chapters. They continued moving forward even when progress was slow. They continued believing even when circumstances were discouraging. They continued working even when recognition had not yet appeared. Over time, those small acts of perseverance created momentum. And eventually, the breakthrough they had been working toward finally arrived. It is important. Remember that the struggles you face today are not permanent conditions. They are temporary seasons that contribute to your growth. The challenges that feel overwhelming right now may one day become the experiences that shaped your greatest strengths. When you look back on this season in the future, you may realize that it taught you lessons you could not have learned any other way. It strengthened your character, clarified your purpose, and prepared you for opportunities that require strength you developed during this time. So instead of seeing your struggle as a sign that life is working against you, consider the possibility that it is working for you. Consider the possibility that every challenge is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than before. The road you are walking may feel difficult today, but it may also be the road that leads you toward the life you have been hoping for. And the strength you are building right now may be the very thing that allows you to step into that life when the moment finally arrives. So keep moving forward even when progress feels slow. Keep believing that your effort is not wasted. Keep trusting that the struggle has a purpose. Because sometimes the hardest seasons are not meant to break you. Sometimes they are meant to prepare you for a life that is about to change in ways you never imagined. Key point 2, the moment you want to quit is often the turning point. One of the most dangerous moments in any journey is the moment when a person begins to believe that their effort no longer matters. It is that quiet point in the struggle where the mind becomes tired, the heart becomes discouraged, and the thought of quitting begins to feel easier than the thought of continuing. Almost everyone experiences this moment at some point in life. It is the point where dreams feel distant, progress feels invisible, and the future looks uncertain. What many people do not realize is that this exact moment when quitting feels most tempting is often the turning point in the journey. The human mind naturally seeks comfort and relief from pressure. When a situation becomes difficult, our instincts push us to escape the discomfort. This is why people abandon goals, walk away from dreams, and give up on opportunities when the path becomes challenging. The pain of continuing feels greater than the pain of quitting, but quitting creates a permanent loss, while struggle is usually temporary. When people decide to give up, they rarely do it because they lack ability. Most people quit because they lose hope before results appear. They assume that because they cannot see progress, nothing is happening. They assume that because the breakthrough has not arrived yet, it never will. But progress is not always visible. Think about someone climbing a mountain. The journey upward is exhausting. The path becomes steeper with every step. The air becomes thinner and the body begins to feel the weight of fatigue. Certain points the climb can feel endless. The person may look around and see nothing but more mountain ahead of them. At that moment, the temptation to stop becomes incredibly strong. The climber might think, this is too difficult. I've already come far enough, I don't need to go any further. And if they turn back at that moment, they may never realize how close they were to reaching the summit. But imagine something different. Imagine that instead of quitting, the climber decides to take just a few more steps. Despite the exhaustion, despite the discomfort, they keep moving forward. And suddenly, after one more turn in the path, the mountain opens up and the summit appears right in front of them. The view they had been climbing toward was only a few steps away. Life often works the same way. The most difficult part of the journey frequently happens right before the breakthrough. When progress has been slow, when effort has gone unnoticed, and when results have not yet appeared, the pressure can become overwhelming. Those moments test your commitment. They challenge your belief in the future you are working toward. But those same moments are also where the greatest growth happens. When you push forward despite discouragement, you build a level of resilience that cannot be developed any other way. Each time you refuse to quit, you strengthen your ability to endure hardship and overcome obstacles. Resilience is not something people are born with. It is something they build through repeated experiences of difficulty and perseverance. Every time you face a challenge and choose to continue rather than retreat, you add another layer to that resilience. Over time, those layers form a powerful foundation that allows you to withstand even greater challenges. This is why many successful people often describe their hardest moments as the ones that shaped them the most. They remember the nights when they doubted themselves, the times when failure seemed inevitable, and the moments when they were tempted to walk away. But instead of quitting, they stayed. They kept working when the outcome was uncertain. They kept believing when others doubted them. They kept moving forward when the path seemed unclear. Those decisions made in the quiet moments of struggle eventually created the breakthrough that changed everything. Another reason the moment of quitting is so dangerous is because emotions can distort perspective. When someone is exhausted or discouraged, their mind begins to focus only on the negative aspects of their situation. They forget the progress they have already made. They overlook the lessons they have learned and the strength they have developed. Instead of seeing how far they have come, they see only how far they still have to go. But perspective changes everything. If someone could step back and look at their journey from a wider viewpoint, they might realize that they are much closer to their goal than they believe. The years of effort, the countless hours of work, and the challenges they have overcome have already moved them much further along the path than they realize. The problem is that when you are inside the struggle, it is difficult to see the full picture. It is similar to being in the middle of a storm. When you are surrounded by heavy rain and strong winds, it feels as though the storm will last forever. But storms always pass. Eventually, the clouds break, the rain stops, and the sky becomes clear again. Storm does not define the entire day. It is simply a temporary part of it. In the same way, the struggles you face right now do not define your entire journey. They are temporary challenges within a much larger story. The turning point often arrives when a person decides that they will continue moving forward, regardless of how difficult things feel in the moment. That decision creates momentum. Momentum is powerful because it transforms small actions into meaningful progress over time. Even when progress is slow, consistent effort accumulates. Each step forward, no matter how small, moves you closer to your destination. Sometimes the breakthrough does not arrive in a dramatic moment. Sometimes it arrives quietly after months or years of persistence. Opportunities begin to appear. Doors that were once closed begin to open. People who once overlooked your efforts begin to recognize your value. The life you were working towards slowly begins to take shape. But none of those moments would have happened if you had given up during the hardest part of the journey. This is why perseverance is one of the most valuable qualities a person can develop. Perseverance is the ability to continue pursuing a goal even when progress is slow, obstacles appear, and success seems uncertain. It is the refusal to allow temporary setbacks to become permanent defeats. People who persevere understand that failure is not the opposite of success. It is often part of the path that leads to success. Mistake provides an opportunity to learn. Every challenge provides an opportunity to grow. Instead of seeing obstacles as reasons to quit, they see them as signals to adapt and keep moving forward. This mindset changes everything. When you begin to view challenges as temporary tests rather than permanent barriers, the struggle becomes easier to endure. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? That shift in perspective allows you to transform obstacles into opportunities for growth. Over time, the accumulation of those lessons builds wisdom, strength, and confidence. And when the breakthrough finally arrives, you are not only ready for it, you are capable of sustaining it. The moment when you feel like quitting may actually be the moment when your greatest transformation is about to begin. It is the moment when your determination is tested, your patience is stretched, and your belief in the future is challenged. If you choose to continue moving forward in that moment, you demonstrate a level of commitment that separates those who achieve their goals from those who abandon them. Every great achievement requires a point where the individual must decide whether they will surrender to difficulty or rise above it. The people who experience breakthroughs are not necessarily the most talented or the most fortunate. Often they are simply the ones who refused to quit when things became difficult. They stayed in the fight longer than others. They endured challenges that discouraged others. They believed in the possibility of success even when the evidence was not yet visible. That persistence eventually created the moment when everything changed. And the same possibility exists for anyone who refuses to give up on their journey. The turning point may be closer than you think. The opportunity that changes everything may already be forming just beyond your current struggle. But you will only experience it if you continue moving forward. So when the temptation to quit appears, remember that it is often a signal that you are approaching the most important moment of your journey. Instead of seeing it as a reason to stop, see it as a challenge to take one more step. Because sometimes the step you take when you feel like quitting becomes a step that leads you directly to the breakthrough you have been waiting for. Key point 3, your life can change in a single moment. One of the most powerful truths about life, that everything can change in a single moment. People often believe that transformation takes many years and that success always comes slowly, step by step. And while growth often happens gradually, there are also moments when everything shifts suddenly. One opportunity, one conversation, one open door, one decision, or one unexpected event can completely alter the direction of your life. The challenge is that while you are waiting for that moment, it can feel like nothing is happening. Past weeks turn into months, and sometimes years go by without seeing the kind of change you were hoping for. During those seasons, it is easy to become discouraged. It can begin to feel like your efforts are invisible and your dreams are too far away to ever become reality. But what many people fail to understand is that life often works beneath the surface long before the breakthrough appears. There are seasons where progress is not dramatic or obvious. Instead, it is quiet, slow, and hidden. You may be learning lessons, developing new skills, building resilience, and forming connections that will eventually play a crucial role in the opportunity that changes everything. These moments may not feel significant while they are happening, but they are building the foundation for something greater. Think about how quickly circumstances can shift. A single phone call can bring unexpected news that opens a door you never imagined. A chance meeting with the right person can lead to an opportunity that transforms your career. A single decision to try again after failure can place you on a path that leads to success. History is full of stories where someone experienced years of struggle before a single moment changed their life forever. The years of effort that came before that moment were not wasted, they were preparation. Every setback, every lesson, and every challenge contributed to the person they had become by the time the opportunity finally arrived. The same principle can apply to your life. Right now, you may be in a season where the change you are hoping for has not yet appeared. You might feel like you are putting in effort without seeing results. You might feel like you are moving forward without clear signs that your future is improving. But that does not mean change is not coming. Life is unpredictable in the most powerful way. Circumstances can shift faster than you expect. The opportunity you have been waiting for could arrive tomorrow, next week, at a moment you never anticipated. The key is to remain prepared for that moment when it arrives. Preparation is what allows a person to recognize opportunity and take advantage of it. If someone spends years developing their abilities, strengthening their character, and staying committed to their goals, they will be ready when the moment of change appears. But if someone gives up during the waiting season, they may miss the opportunity when it finally arrives. This is why perseverance is so important. The journey toward transformation often requires patience and endurance. It requires continuing to move forward even when progress seems slow. When you keep going despite the uncertainty, you place yourself in the position to experience the moment that can change everything. Another important truth is that breakthroughs often come unexpectedly. Many people imagine that the moment their life changes will arrive exactly the way they planned it. They picture a clear path where everything unfolds according to their expectations. But real life rarely works that way. Sometimes the opportunity appears in a completely different form than you imagined. Sometimes the door that opens leads to a path you had never considered. The blessing you receive may not look like the one you originally hoped for, but it may ultimately lead you to a place that is even better than what you had planned. This is why maintaining hope and openness is so important during difficult seasons. When you believe that change is possible, you remain alert to opportunities. You stay willing to take risks, try new ideas, and continue developing yourself. That mindset allows you to recognize the moment when life begins to shift. When someone loses hope, they often stop looking for possibilities. They withdraw from opportunities, avoid taking chances, and settle into a routine that feels safe but limiting. Over time, that mindset can cause them to miss the very moment that could have changed their life. Hope keeps your vision alive. It reminds you that the story of your life is still being written. Even when circumstances feel stagnant, the next chapter may be closer than you realize. Another reason life-changing moments are so powerful is that they often build upon everything that came before them. The years of effort you invested, the lessons you learned from failure, and the resilience you developed during difficult times all contribute to the moment when everything shifts. When the opportunity finally arrives, you will be ready to handle it because of the experiences you have already lived through. The struggle that once felt frustrating will begin to make sense. You will realize that every obstacle taught you something valuable. Every delay strengthened your patience. Every setback built your determination. Without those experiences, you might not have been prepared to recognize or embrace the opportunity when it appeared. This is why it is important to view your current season with perspective. Even if life feels slow right now, it does not mean you are stuck. You may be in a period of preparation rather than a period of stagnation. Preparation often feels quiet and unremarkable. It does not always come with recognition or immediate rewards, but it creates the conditions that make future breakthroughs possible. The person you are becoming during this season matters just as much as the opportunities that will eventually appear. When change finally comes, it can happen quickly. One moment you may feel uncertain about your future, and the next moment a new opportunity opens a door you never expected. A relationship forms that leads to growth. A project succeeds after many attempts. A decision you made months or years ago suddenly begins to produce results. That moment can feel like a sudden shift, but in reality, it is the result of everything that happened before it. Your patience, your perseverance, and your willingness to keep moving forward all contributed to the transformation. This is why giving up too early can be such a tragic mistake. If someone walks away from their path just before the turning point arrives, they may never realize how close they were to experiencing the change they had been waiting for. The breakthrough might have been one more step away, one more effort away, one more moment of courage away. But they stopped before they reached it. Choosing to continue even when progress feels uncertain keeps the possibility of transformation alive. It allows you to remain in the game long enough for opportunity to find you. Life-changing moments are rarely predictable. They often arrive quietly and unexpectedly, sometimes disguised as small chances or simple decisions. But when you stay committed to your journey, you increase the likelihood that you will encounter that moment. You keep yourself prepared, hopeful, and ready to act when the door finally opens. The truth is that your life can change in a single moment. The opportunity that transforms your future may already be forming somewhere beyond your current circumstances. The people who will play a role in your journey may already be moving towards your path. And when that moment arrives, everything you have endured will begin to make sense. The struggles, the waiting, the uncertainty, they will all become part of the story that led you to the life you are stepping into. That is why it is so important to keep going even when you cannot yet see the result of your effort. The moment that changes everything might be closer than you think. And the only way to experience it is to stay on the path long enough for it to arrive.